well too.
Good.
There is no future for people who deny their past. My foreparents, my grandparents.
Welcome to the Final Boss Podcast, your ultimate destination for urban culture, community vibes, and live conversations with the movers and shakers of the streets. Join us as we explore the rhythm of the one beat at a time. Let's get the show started. Turn up the volume, sit back and relax, and welcome to the Final Boss Podcast, hosted by Turbo, the CEO, and follow us on all social media platforms.
You're listening to the TheFinalBoss podcast.
Welcome to the Final Boss Podcast, episode number 97. Episode number 97. To my smarts, to my final bosses, listen. Tonight, we going gloves off on some new technology that I know, that we know you haven't heard of. Yeah, we're going gloves off. You see the gloves? Gloves off. Boom. Just like that. Tonight. We are going to have an amazing time. All right? We're going to have an amazing time. We're going to talk about some new technologies for Tech Tuesday. Welcome to Tech Tuesday, first and foremost. And as you're here, the greeting of the day. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Welcome to Tuesday's edition of the Final Boss Podcast, hosted by yours truly, Final, and the Sensei, Big Mike. Let's give him a hand. He's our technology SME. Hey, listen, smarts, Final Bosses. You want to be smart around your friends? Use acronyms. Here's an acronym for you. SME. SME means to get your notes out, because I know you're not ready. Get your notes out. This is teaching time. SME, subject matter expert. And that guy right there, he's our subject matter expert when it comes to all things technology, including AI. He's that guy. That's why he's the Sensei. But listen, tonight's episode number 97. Qdar Technologies. Qdar Technologies. If you don't know what Qdar Technologies is, get ready. You're in for one. This is an episode you do not want to miss, and you want to make sure that you're taking a lot of notes, because these are things to come, and a lot of these things are already happening. So before we get into it, this is for entertainment purposes only, of course. And we're going to roll with the brass tacks. Tonight's brass tacks comes from no author, but here it is anyway. This is about our subject, Qdar Technologies. Unlocking new horizons in sensing and security. Pushing the boundaries of what's possible and revealing the possibly unseen. That is our brass tacks for tonight. That is our brass tacks for tonight. We want to thank each and every last one of you for your continued support. Please continue to send us emails and DM us on all of our social media platforms. And the email is info at TheFinalBossPodcast.com. Again, that's info at TheFinalBossPodcast.com. We have our own email server. This is no Gmail. This is strictly for the Final Boss. All right. So I know you guys are like, what? Well, that's for another time. But that was our brass tacks for tonight. We're getting ready to get into episode number 97, Qdar Technologies, with myself and the Sensei. And I hope you guys enjoy the show. Let's get into it. So let's get into it tonight. So, real quick, admin notes. Sorry about that, but we have 4 formats. Tuesdays are dedicated to Tech Tuesdays. Thursdays are our special guests with entrepreneurs, business-minded people, business owners, community leaders, politicians, etc. Sunday show are dedicated to sitting down with moi, the final boss. Sitting down with. And Monday, which is our brand new edition, is Motivation Mondays, where I go into different elements of motivation. Yesterday was about the 6 pillars of motivation, and you're going to hear that term quite often for the next couple of Monday episodes. So check that out. If you haven't purchased any merch or seen the merch, go to the merch site. It's the merch is at www.TheFinalBossPodcast, one word.com. Again, it's TheFinalBossPodcast.com, one word. Now that I got the admin notes out the way, man, let's get right into it. And we're going to blow your mind on this topic. Trust me, this is going to blow your mind and expand your comprehension on the things that may be. It's not sci-fi anymore, and the future is now. So, with that being said, the Sensei, you have the floor, my man.
So, this subject is a very, very technical subject, and it really is. But we're going to try to make it so we can break it down so it's understandable. Because once you start getting into what it actually is, there's a whole lot of science involved in it. But we can make it easy to understand. So Qdar Technologies, it's quantum detection plus AI plus radar. So you take those 3 things, you put them together. Now we know what radar is because we've used radar since World War II.
Right.
So you can use radar to detect where an airplane is flying or where anything is in a particular part of the globe. So radar is very important. We understand how we track weather patterns with radar. So now you imagine you combine that with the power of AI, and it gets very, very powerful. And then we're going to start using quantum detection. So it's pretty much a game-changing convergence. It's pretty much, it's a level of perfection we have yet to even think about, let alone grasp. So we understand that we have these airplanes that fly. They're called stealth aircraft, and you can't find them in the air because they use current radar and you can't see these things. Well, how about there's tech that can detect stealth aircraft? Transform medical imaging is another thing that can happen. Enable unjammable communications. So if you have a cell phone right now and you're in an arena and things get squirrely, the technology is out there right now to shut off all cell service in a specific area, jams all of the signals. No radio signals or any Wi-Fi signals get in or out. So that's possible. And imagine if you have a technology that cannot be jammed. So that's what's coming. And when I say
Wow.
coming, I mean it's getting here pretty fast.
Yeah.
So we have things that are in quantum world that is called the quantum properties. One of them is called entanglement and
Mhm.
superposition.
Right. I'm
And
familiar.
so this is entangled photon pairs. It's like having a pair of gloves where knowing one instantly tells you about the other. So if I got a pair of gloves and one knows where the other is at all times, anywhere in the universe, it knows where it is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's quantum radar. I send one photon, I keep the entangled partner, and I detect the reflected signal despite the noise. Radar sends out a signal and then it reflects back, and then you can tell where the item is because you bounce a signal back and you measure the reflection.
Mm.
So when we start doing that with photons, we send the one glove off, but you keep the other glove, it always knows where the first glove is.
Wow. Wow. So let me get this straight. Quantum radar sends out, you said, unique particles
Mhm.
that can't be copied or faked. And you said that's why stealth fails against it.
Mhm.
Man, that's that's some heavy stuff right there.
It
So
is.
we're not talking about something that's not just stronger than radar. This is new. This is new science,
It's a new science. Mhm. It's a brand new
man.
science.
So a little quick history. So World War II radar, over time, we've built on that technology. Now we're taking a giant leap into the quantum arena.
Mhm. So traditional radar bounces radio waves, sends out the radio waves
Right.
and bounces them back, measures the
Right.
reflections.
Okay. Yep.
Quantum uses a completely different paradigm. It uses
Okay.
quantum states to identify targets.
Okay.
Now, you say, that's how do you do that? Well, because we have AI.
Right.
AI's role helps process this complex quantum data because your classical computers can't deal with it. Again,
Right.
I've told you how the difference is between regular computers and quantum computing.
Mhm. Yep.
Regular computers is like two-dimensional, a flat
Mhm.
desk.
Mhm.
Quantum computers are three-dimensional. So in our current technology, using current computers, it can only think two-dimensionally. We have to have AI, which will have the ability of working with quantum to think three-dimensionally and process the three-dimensional data.
Right.
Because your classical computers can't do it. They're two-dimensional. That's their
Mhm.
limitation. And so in plain terms, if I've got a piece of paper, that's two-dimensional.
Right.
Now I got
I
a
did
ball.
that. Right. Mm-hmm.
So once you
I
got the
did that.
ball,
Right.
we have a hesitation there.
No, I was saying that I did that example the other night from 2D to 3D to 4D, and I used paper as an example for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we talk about defense and security applications, because this is where the funding is going to come for this stuff. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So quantum radar can detect stealth aircraft, stealth submarines that nobody knows where they are. They're all out through the ocean. We don't know that. Missiles, satellites. Just know this. China has been putting massive effort into this since 2016. Okay. Quantum radar resists jamming because you can't fake the quantum state.
That's interesting. I follow a lot of their military advances, and I read some articles where they were saying they now have the ability to track stealth, and the way that they were saying that they were able to track is not conventional means. It was like you're saying, there's signal bouncing, but on a quantum level. Yeah, yep, man. That's this is interesting. This is very,
Well,
very interesting.
we maintain that we have stealth technology that does really
Mhm.
good, okay,
Right.
because missiles and jets that you can't see. But imagine they're no longer invisible.
Mhm. How do defense systems globally, man, if they
How do you
already
catch
hit a
up?
game, how we catch it? How are we gonna catch up? If
Well,
we are,
even
if
you remember the conversation we had where we talked about whoever the first one to achieve AGI is going to immediately have superiority because nobody else is going to catch them.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, kind of
yep,
put
I
it in
remember
those
that.
terms. Kind of put it in those
Mm,
terms.
got it.
It's so
Now, what about
close.
healthcare? Hmm.
Well, healthcare, you have quantum sensors. You can
Okay.
detect single molecules. Imagine that. Detect early cancer. I mean, at the molecular level.
Wow.
Neurosignals. So if you are, for example, you have somebody who has some spinal cord injury, you'll be able to detect neural signals exactly to where the signals stop. You do a quantum MRI, you can spot diseases so far in advance. You don't have to wait for a tumor to get the size of an apple. It could be the molecular size, and you'll be able to see it.
Wow.
And yeah, you always say early detection is the best cure, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Man,
Mm-hmm.
that's amazing. In terms of the lives that they would be able to save, uh, AI will be able to find the patterns in this quantum data that doctors often miss.
Of course,
This
because like I
is
said, you're
incredible.
seeing things at such a space, in such a place.
Hmm.
That's why it's going to take the combination of three-dimensional thinking, AI, with the quantum technology. It's going to take that. So imagine this: when you start talking about, we hear about auto driving cars, and you see them in Phoenix, Arizona. They have these cars that you can have a car that you like an Uber, and it comes and shows
Right.
up and picks
Hmm.
you up, and there's no driver.
Wow. I saw
Now,
that. I saw that.
imagine now we start
Hmm.
using quantum sensors. Now you can drive safely in the fog, blizzards, complete darkness. Doesn't need light. It can sense everything. It can tell a plastic bag from a child. Imagine that for safety. Imagine the biggest problem you have in self-driving cars right now is they don't see motorcycles. That's the biggest problem they have right now, or people. So you have a person
Right.
who's walking across the street, and if they move too fast, the self-driving car can't catch up. Now imagine now that you have something that's so sensitive that it can detect everything.
Wow. That's intriguing.
Mhm.
Man, that's intriguing.
It's going to make self-driving vehicles a reality.
Mm. So now that has me thinking, what about cybersecurity?
Hmm.
You mentioned quantum sensors that are immune from jamming and hacking. That's going to take cybersecurity into another realm. Now we're
Of
talking
course.
about quantum applications for that.
Well, by the time we even get to this point, we will have already
Mhm.
had the quantum apocalypse. And the quantum
Oh.
apocalypse is all encryption that we know of is no longer valid. It has no. It's all.
I was
crap.
going to say, man, is that sound like we need to have a show on that?
Yeah, the quantum apocalypse, absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because
Yeah,
that's a reality that's coming, like to
right.
your doorstep,
Man.
coming to a neighborhood near you.
Well, all your passwords are white because they're not valid anymore. Because
they're not valid anymore. That's why so many systems are now trying to have you sign in without passwords. Passwordless sign in. And we can talk about that.
Strictly.
Yeah,
I was gonna say
you don't have a password anymore for an account.
But just biometrics.
All kinds of things, multi-factor authentication, all kinds of various odds and ends. But we can talk about that during the quantum apocalypse.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that in the quantum apocalypse.
Mm-hmm.
Man, look, final bosses, smarts. I told you this was gonna be that episode, so hopefully you're taking notes. And we're going to be talking a lot about this quantum apocalypse. That sounds crazy. But yeah, we're going to get into that at another episode.
Yeah, and it's closer than you think.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, it's way too close. It's scary close.
So since we're talking about this Qdar Technologies and these applications for these quantum AI models, there's been a lot of disasters around the world. There was just an earthquake, I think it was yesterday in Iran, and it was either yesterday or the day before. How does that fare? And I'm trying to imagine, like, it will be able to have better disaster predictions models embedded, or
yeah. So, for example, if you think that there's going to be a potential for a tsunami or an earthquake or a bad weather pattern, I mean, imagine now you can track it right down to the very beginning, so you have the most amount of time to react, and you'll be able to pinpoint, oh, it's happening exactly here, or it's going to happen right here. So early warning, of course, is key to survival. But yeah, it's going to be pretty impressive what you get. Pretty impressive.
You know, I anytime we've had these high tech and high level conversations, my mental always goes defense, medical, weather, space. And you know, we have the Hubble telescope that's mapping the known universe right now. If you
imagine a ship that can go out there and fly through the universe, and it knows automatically where all the space junk is, so it can avoid it.
Right, it's already mapped exactly.
I know.
How does how would that quantum application apply to Hubble? How would that work?
Well, Hubble's already up there with old technology, and it's just doing its thing.
Right.
But imagine though that anywhere in the universe you can track. I mean, you can detect comets that are coming our direction and know exactly where they are, and before anybody even could see them, you already know and can predict the path and etc. Yeah, man, pretty impressive. And if you ever look around and see how much space junk we have floating around in our skies,
I have.
Pretty wild.
Yeah,
pretty wild.
They said we got 30,000 something satellites up there.
It's not, that doesn't count the pieces of them that are still floating up there. So,
true.
One of the things that we hear about a lot, you hear about drones, and a lot of drone activity going on in current warfare.
Right.
That's being used to cause a lot of damage, and they're hard to stop. And we heard about drones that were flying all over our country, and nobody said anything about them. They didn't know what to do about them, etc. So traditional radar struggles to spot tiny drones because they're too small.
Okay.
Well, quantum radar excels in this. You're talking about real-time classification and threat assessment, like almost immediately.
Mapping in the battlefield.
Mapping of the battlefield.
Yeah.
You know everything that's out there,
Mhm.
nothing hidden. And because you're going to have AI, it's going to have
Yeah.
the ability of assessing all that information instantaneously.
So assessing prediction models.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that sounds like some amazing tech, man. And you know, as we continue to build on, I know there's going to be hurdles that will remain, but the adaptability and and mass is going to be phenomenal. These are times that we're living in right now. That's just phenomenal.
Well, what are the resources that we have to protect right now that are very vulnerable resources from these little drones? Think about that. What do we got out there that's vulnerable right now? If you got a 20,000, 50,000 people in a stadium, right?
Right.
How do you protect them people? One bad actor with a drone right now can raise all kinds of havoc, right?
Yeah.
Let's say that I have an aerosol dispersal unit on my little drone and I want to spray some poison in the air. Can anybody stop me?
No. And I don't think we've developed any mobile deployment EMPs. I don't think that's possible yet.
Right.
I
Right now
might be
we don't
wrong.
have
Yeah.
the technology out there right now that currently protects against that. So where are we vulnerable? We're vulnerable where? Stadiums, airports, power plants.
Yep.
Imagine now we're protected by quantum counter drone tech.
Mm.
Pretty impressive.
That is impressive.
So another thing that's going to be pretty impressive. Remember we talked about looking at diseases in humans at the molecular level? Now let's apply that to environmental and climate monitoring. Detecting gas at parts per trillion. Real-time tracking of emissions and pollutants. Immediately knowing that there's a gas leak or that there's a chemical spill or whatever, and immediately knowing exactly how much has been released. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. It's pretty doggone impressive.
So, where do you want to tie into, right? Tie it from there. Once we start talking, we can monitor pollutants. What's that normally tie into?
Mhm.
You tie right into your carbon, renewable energy.
Yeah. Renewable energy. Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
All those things you want to predict, who's doing the polluting and where. And there's no hiding from it. You can't fake the data.
Right. Tracking your carbon footprint.
Absolutely.
Mm.
So you had spoken a minute ago about space, the Hubble telescope. Now think about this. Quantum sensors can detect dark matter, gravitational waves, and faint galaxy signals. Again, like when we say that we can see things at the molecular level, imagine you apply that outward into the universe. You can pick up signals from other galaxies. You'll start to have things like quantum telescopes, things that make the Webb telescope look like, child's play.
Yeah. The nerd in me is excited.
You're going to have navigation, communication. Imagine now you have quantum communication. You ever watch Star Trek or some of the various other shows? And sometimes they had to, like the ones where missions to Mars, etc. The one where Matt Damon went out to Mars and he had to wait for a certain timetable to communicate.
Yeah.
And they had primitive communication. Imagine they had instantaneous communication at all times.
with no lag.
No lag.
Hmm.
Mm-mm. So with this, we think and talk about, okay, this is coming,
Right.
but it takes a lot right now. It's just like
Mm-hmm.
anything that we've done in the past. We start really bulky and you barely walk, you barely move, and eventually you start to crawl, walk, and run. So imagine now we have the technology required to make this happen is pretty intense. So right now, cooling is going to be the big deal, which we have to near absolute zero is required.
Right.
Now,
Like liquid helium.
yeah, near zero. So that we have ChatGPT and we have our AIs that we use, and they require an enormous amount of power and processing.
Mm-hmm.
And we heard about Chinese DeepSeek, and that DeepSeek uses a lighter type of processor, which requires a lot less power and a lot less cooling. So those are the advances that are going to be coming.
Okay.
That right now we have to have near absolute zero, but it's coming. That's going to be dealt with. When you had CPUs that once we started breaking certain speeds, and we said, oh, it's too fast, we can't keep it cool enough. And we had gaming computers with liquid cases, the whole computer's in liquid, in glycerin to be able to cool.
Right.
So in order to get around that, what did we start doing? We started, instead of having a single CPU layer that can only go so fast, we start stacking them on top of each other.
Stacking those up.
Then we had the same effective processing power. So the same kind of thing is going to happen. Technology is going to evolve to compensate for these needs. So some short range so far, it's still in the lab stage. So the cost right now is just too high. Mostly government and big corporate use, early adopter phase. I did ask if I wanted to create my own quantum computer, what would it take? If at home right now I wanted to build my own quantum computer, it's possible.
How much will it cost?
Initial cost out the gate, you start initial investment is 15 grand. And then from there, you go, the next phase is about 50 grand. The next phase after that's 250,000, and then up to $500,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's expensive.
Well,
but we're in the early phase. I mean, it's like all new tech.
How much did a computer cost when you first went to buy an old computer? A 130,
exactly.
a 100 megahertz computer costs $3,000-$4,000,
or cell phone, or flat screen TVs. Yeah, all new tech. Yeah. So let's talk about money, since you just mentioned money. I like talking about money. Let's talk about the money and the major players. Who's leading the charge in quantum detection technology right now? Who's leading that?
Well, we already know who the big player is.
Yes, we do.
So the big player is China, right? They put 10 billion plus in quantum initiative. But here we have DARPA.
Right.
And that's its own animal. We have IBM, Google. EU has projects going on. There's startups. First commercial quantum sensors are developed in 2025.
Right.
So if you want to build your own, all right. I just got an accurate, rough idea based on the type of quantum you want to create. Superconducting qubits like IBM, 10 million plus, $1 million each. They have required dilution refrigerators, custom microwaving equipment, etc. Trapped in ion cubics, 5 million to 50 million. Photonic quantum computer, 1 to 10 million. And toy quantum experiments, 5,000 to 100,000. This is where you just want to play and touch quantum. It's going to cost you 5,000 to 100,000. You could actually play with it. Not going to get very far with it, but you could play with it.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is interesting how quickly this technology is moving from research to practical applications. We're seeing the first uses of quantum commercial sensing products. They're supposed to hit the market this year.
Right. And so if you don't want to spend that money to build your own, guess what you're going to be able to do? Rent space. Rent quantum computing. Right now, IBM Quantum, Amazon Bracket, Microsoft Azure Quantum, they're going to let you program real quantum computers remotely. You don't have to spend $10 million. You would have rent your own space.
So you're leasing out this space.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild.
That's pretty wild.
And you can do quantum simulators that don't cost anything. Run quantum algorithms on your laptop. There's one that's called QuizKit, QISKIT, and CirQ, CIRQ. You can run experiments on your own laptop to simulate what quantum could be doing.
Wow. It's
on our doorstep.
Yeah, I know. I you know what? I'm glad you mentioned that, because I did some research of my own when I said, you know what, let's dig deeper into this Qdar Technologies. And on the latest Google recent research shows quantum algorithms can learn AGI, ASI, certain neural network patterns exponentially faster than classical models.
I told you that once we combined quantum with AI, we will reach AGI.
Yeah.
That's going to be the bridge it needs. Because you can't process the information two-dimensionally that you need for a three-dimensional model.
So we're at a point of singularity, like for real.
Oh, it's coming. Look, quantum AI neural networks that learn faster, more intuitively by 2027. Military use, AV deployment, 2030. Consumer quantum apps begin to emerge.
Yeah, the synergy for AI is incredible.
And I think these timelines are going to be faster than that. I don't believe we're going to have
absolutely. I agree.
There's going to be breakthroughs, and we're going to have massive leaps, and it's going to be insane how fast it's going to be like upon us. So if we have 3 years, we're lucky. From what we're knowing and learning right now with how fast this is happening. There's going to be a breakthrough where they don't have to have the brick cell phone in your car. Okay. Do you remember when they went from the brick to the Nokia?
Yeah.
Remember how revolutionary that was?
Absolutely.
Imagine
I had a Nokia phone.
This is where we're headed. That kind of revolution is going to hit us. Somebody's going to have a breakthrough, and it's going to be like, boom, here it is.
AI with unprecedented computational power. Man. Unprecedented. That's amazing. And the synergy is incredible.
And you know, we already have robotic surgeries. Yeah. And imagine this, if you have a machine which has the capability, it just needs the information. And I'll give you an example. LASIK surgery. If you've ever had corrective eye surgery to fix your vision.
Right.
All right. There was a machine that came out when I got mine in my 40s. Okay. And I'm 60. Okay. I'm 61. All right. So I'm talking 20 years ago that I had gotten my LASIK surgery, and they had just come out with a new Bosch machine, and they were doing what's called wavefront. So it would measure your eye, and instead of doing a radial keratotomy, it was a version of that, but it was so precise for your eye that the vision you got out of the acuity was unparalleled. So that technology, its problem that it didn't have enough knowledge or input. It needed more data, more input. Well, now imagine that you take that machine, which has that kind of capability, and now you can throw at it unlimited data and combine that with quantum sensors where it can sense right down to the molecule. Talk about precise and precision.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to be able to repair the retinal, the optic nerves.
Mm.
Imagine you
Yeah,
have
they're
something
going to need
that
those optic
precise.
nerves.
Mm-hmm.
I think the optic nerves are going to play a big part in technology in the near future. Ding, ding,
It's coming.
ding.
Ding, ding,
Hint,
ding.
hint. So, listen, crystal ball time. Crystal ball time.
I'm not Nostradamus.
Non-Nostradamus like question. Where do you see the technology in 5 to 10 years?
Explosion.
Who?
Absolute. Everything that has the word technology associated with it is going to be different. There's nothing going to be the same.
Wow.
Well, we talked about the Neuralinks and we talked about the ability to have human interface.
Mm-hmm.
With this Qdar capability, talk about tapping into your neural network at the molecular level.
Right.
It's going to be seamless. Analyzing everything about you instantaneously, knowing everything that you are, everything you have been, everything you will be.
Wow.
It's like magic.
Yeah, that's scary. We talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like the more we talk about these AI models and quantum computing and quantum technologies, is the realer the idea of a Minority Report comes closer.
Oh,
I keep bringing that up, but it just seems to me that this is where we're going, or surpassing.
Absolutely. We're surpassing it, and this is why it's so challenging in today's world, because we see the news media and all of the. I'm going to call it like it is: distraction. All this stuff is distraction. You know what? There's so much happening behind the scenes right now. It's happening so rapidly, and it's the wild, wild west, and nobody even talks about it. When have you heard anybody talk about Qdar? Anybody? Anybody?
No,
Silence.
nobody.
Bueller.
Nobody.
Bueller.
Mueller.
Bueller. Where Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Bueller. You know, where's Bueller at?
Where's my alarm clock?
Nobody is talking about this stuff.
Yeah.
But it's going to revolutionize life as we know it. Look, we know that there's risks with this stuff. Now, again, it's the wild, wild west. Nobody's monitoring it. Nobody's putting in safeguards because everybody's trying to get to the finish line first. So since we know that everybody's trying to get to the finish line and there's nobody monitoring it, there's no safety, zero safety protocols. Look, when they started building cars, when did they start putting seatbelts in them? Took a while, didn't it?
It did.
All right. And how about airbags? And how about crumple zones? How many years did they have cars before they started figuring it out? Hey, if you make the car absorb the impact, your body doesn't have to.
We're talking about 30 years in between seatbelts to
right. Now let's
airbags
take that
to
template.
cars. Yeah.
Let's take that template. And if you want to predict the future, all you do is look at the past. Take a template and grab the template and move the timeline forward. So take that template and move it forward. So you have an absolutely unrestricted insanity going on right now. That's the craziest thing you could ever even dream of. That's not even regulated by anybody. Nobody's regulated. By the time we begin to think about regulating, it's too late.
Well, this is because we're all in data collection. This is
we're
data
in the
collection.
race.
Metrics.
We're in the race. Yeah, we're in the race right now.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, nobody cares about if you break your ankle and you're running on concrete versus a nice running track. You don't care. So look, the biggest risks are surveillance, see through walls, biometric tracking you any place you are at any time, no way to hide. Now, the benefits are going to be, remember we talked about the quantum apocalypse, which we will talk about.
Mhm.
How about quantum encryption? Unbreakable.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Unbreakable.
add that to quantum apocalypse. Yeah, because
And
that
you're
could
going to
be a
have better
subtopic.
identity security. You can't hide, because if I track you to your biometrics right down to the quantum level, you're not
Mhm.
hiding. You are who you are. That's it.
That's it. Hmm.
I mean, so it's crazy what's going on, and I don't want to sound like I'm the guy who's out there screaming, oh my God, but hey, when the proof's going to be in the pudding.
Well,
There,
here's the thing: all technologies kind of follow the same model of how we adapted the curve of adaptation, where we went from smartphones to the internet, and now we're advancing from that to something even greater. It's we've seen it, and it has happened in our lifetime.
Mhm. They showed it in that one movie with Bruce Willis. What was the surrogate movie? What was that one called?
Yeah, that's what it was called, surrogates.
Surrogates. Yeah, that's coming,
Yeah,
because imagine how you have that kind of capability.
wow, wow,
And you say, oh, it's crazy.
yeah.
It's never going to happen in our lifetime. Yeah, maybe not for most
Right,
people. But
yeah,
I will say one thing that's going to happen with this stuff. All of this is going to cause something that we have never even really thought about, which is we've always had a concern that the middle class, which is a very special thing, there's going to be
hmm
no more middle class. It's going to be haves and have-nots. And you're going to have very, very few with haves, and you're going to have a whole lot of have-nots. And if you want to think about that, what was Demolition Man? You watch that one?
yeah, yep.
You're going to have an underground society.
You know, I was just about to mention that we're going to have a society where more people are unplugging from the tech.
Right. And they're going to barter, and they're going to trade, and they're going to still keep
Yeah.
dollar bills near them, because everybody else is going to be purely digital. And they're not
Mm.
going to want to deal with purely digital, and they're going to try and live a completely different life. Now, if you say, well, that can't happen because we all have to have technology. No. Let's look at the Amish.
True.
If we had a
True.
quantum apocalypse right now, does it affect the Amish?
No, that's a great
Hmm.
analogy. Yeah. No, we
It
don't.
doesn't
We
affect
don't.
them at all, does it?
Yeah.
We have a power outage. The
Absolutely.
grid goes down. Do they care?
Nope. Not at
Are
all.
they living just fine?
They truly are.
They build barns, build houses,
Horse
raise
and carry.
cattle. They
Yeah.
produce food. They store food. They do everything you could imagine. They purify water. They do everything super low tech. So
Yep.
who's going to live when everything turns to poo and the grid goes down? Just saying.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say this quantum detection is not just better tech.
Okay.
It's a whole new way of sensing, because it's
Right.
going to integrate with AI. Imagine right now, if you wanted to analyze the beach, okay, and you get all these grains of sand in the beach. Right now, you
hmm
currently have to spread out every individual grain of sand and analyze it one grain of sand at a time.
Right.
So imagine the effort it takes to do that right now. Imagine you could simultaneously analyze the entire beach and know everything about it with every grain instantaneously. That's the difference.
Wow. Truly amazing. Truly amazing.
It just is. I mean, it's such a game changer in ways that you can't even
Yeah.
begin to imagine. And it's what's going to happen. And I'm not predicting, but I'm telling you, this is what's going to happen. Is that like we have had key moments in time where there have been massive leaps? You have a lot of buildup and then a leap. And we're going to have the same thing happen. We're going to have a big buildup, and there's going to be a massive leap. Once we have the massive leap, then we don't go back.
You know, you had mentioned, I wanted to expand a little bit on something. You had mentioned how this technology was going to give us the ability to see through walls,
Mhm.
detect biological signatures from a distance,
Mhm.
track objects with unprecedented precision.
Mhm.
My concern, of course, I'm always thinking ethics, but in this particular case, that raises some serious questions about surveillance and civil liberties, in my
Oh yeah,
opinion.
I consider them to be. They're going to be a thing of the past.
Hmm.
It's going to be a thing of the past. Yep. Especially if you have the
Wow.
ability of mapping someone's entire neural network. There's no such thing as privacy at that point. Look, right now you have the illusion that when you're in your house and you can speak in your house and what you say in your house is private in your house. No, no.
No,
Go do a little bit of
not at
research
all.
on how your windows act like microphones.
Yeah. I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but there's a reason why they stopped using lead paint on homes. And it's not because it was
Mhm. Bad
poisonous.
for you. It's because it makes a ferret cage.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds like, man, it's a double-edged sword. Per usual, you gaining something, but they are also gaining something on their end. Um, it's a communication. All these things like cell phones, communication device. There's
Current technology
yeah.
has, like I talked about the windows and your glass in your house.
Mhm.
Current technology, as we know right now, there are
Right.
laser eavesdropping devices. Laser eavesdropping devices. The laser's aimed at the window. The laser's reflection shifts slightly as the window vibrates from your voice, and you
Right.
speaking inside. The windows vibrate. Okay, and those tiny shifts can be decoded to reconstruct the sound inside of the room.
Wow.
Did you know there's another thing that's really fascinating? And this is an experiment that's been done recently.
Mhm.
We take Wi-Fi. We all have Wi-Fi in our houses. And the experiment kind of went like this. They had cameras and Wi-Fi, and they
Right.
had the AI analyze where people were in the room.
Mhm.
Then they took away the cameras.
Right.
And guess what it was able to do?
It was able to see everything like a sonar device.
Like without any cameras, the
Cameras. Yeah.
Wi-Fi itself was
Mhm.
used to pick up the signals and identify where all the people were in the room.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
current
I read about
technology as we know it today. So
right.
you have Wi-Fi in your house. Guess what that means? The
They know you there.
capability, right? And the capability. Do you
Huh.
think that your devices are secure?
Well, they got Wi-Fi in most cars now, also.
Yes, they do. It's all over the
Y-
place. Mhm.
Yeah. Hmm.
So I'm not saying it's a bad thing because we like technology, but at the same token, I'm saying, hey, look, don't be going in here with rose-colored glasses on. At least have the sense to understand what's happening
Right.
and understand the repercussions and understand that, look, not all tech is your friend. Okay.
Right.
I keep
Right.
saying this. Not all tech is your friend.
Hmm.
Yeah. It's just not.
Yeah.
It's a double-edged sword, right?
Yep. Double-edged sword. Same technology that enabled us to have the benefits of that technology is doing unprecedented surveillance and is affecting our privacy and protection on the other end.
It is.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Hmm.
Look, quantum detection AI, they're not the future. It's here right now.
Right.
Most people don't see it coming, but it's already here. Don't get
Mhm.
left behind.
It's already here. Yep.
Don't get left behind. If you're listening today, consider this an invitation to explore, to start learning, right? To start
Right.
learning. You gotta start learning now, because I'm not
Mhm.
saying it's too late, but it's your time now.
Yeah.
Now is your time. If you want to get involved, now is the time. The next
Yeah.
decade will belong to those who understood and apply quantum tech now.
Exactly. So with that, listen, to my smarts, to my final bosses, if you're an investor, look into this quantum technologies. Look into Qdar Technologies. It's like the sensei said, it's here. Um, and you want to get smart about future tech, educating yourself, getting certifications, increasing your employability. It's right here.
And
Expand your
there's
mind, expand
resources
your
right now.
knowledge.
There's
Yeah.
resources right now if you want to learn quantum.
Yeah,
You want to learn about
absolutely.
quantum programming, there's resources right now that you can tap into right now.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely.
Look, science fiction is
It's
very
not.
rapidly
It
going to become
is
science
very
fact.
absolutely, absolutely.
Science fiction is rapidly becoming science fact. The things we
absolutely.
only dreamed about as kids are here.
Mhm.
The remember
Man,
the
and you
in
know,
Star Trek the what was the device called that McCoy had that he could wave over you and tell everything that was wrong with you?
that was called. Man, we've talked about that. Man, give me a second. Um,
Tricorder,
yeah, tricorder. Yep.
a handheld diagnostic device used by Starfleet medical officers.
Mhm.
They can scan a patient's body, detect injuries, diseases, or anomalies, and provide immediate data. Think about that.
Yep.
It
It's
integrated
crazy.
AI back then because it
Yeah,
would give you instant
that was
results.
that was in the 70s
Yeah, and guess what?
when that idea came out.
Yeah, well, it's
Yeah,
coming.
yeah.
It's going to revolutionize medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine you go to the doc and they just wave this thing over you, and they know everything that's going on with you immediately.
Right. And be able to develop a cure or give you the medication
Oh,
you need,
all,
or
all the information
all the
instantly.
information.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Imagine you take the device; it's a handheld device. It's going to combine quantum
Mm-hmm.
computing with AI, and all the quantum sensing, and all of the AI database and knowledge that's going to have the knowledge of all humans combined, and it's immediately going to be able to tell you what your problems are.
Yeah. That's just phenomenal. Just phenomenal. Just
Imagine it'll
phenomenal.
change completely behavioral health, because let's say that they sometimes have a difficult time understanding whether or not a person has a chemical problem, a neurological
Mm-hmm.
problem, a behavior problem, or whatever the case might be, that sometimes have a hard time pinpointing what's causing the issue. Imagine now you can take a device which can immediately measure and know exactly what's going on with your mental health.
Wow.
That's coming.
Yeah. You know, that's it. And thank you for that brilliant summary of Qdar Technologies. I know we've only touched the surface, but this technology is sure to reshape multiple industries simultaneously. Defense, healthcare, transportation, environmental, monitoring, surveillance, space exploration, all the things that we've been talking about tonight. The convergence effect will create opportunities that we have never seen before.
Or even
And
imagine.
yeah, that's crazy. Smarts, go learn about quantum technologies. Get off your butts. Go learn something new. Face something challenging. You need to be challenged. You need to be challenged. This is how you grow. This is how you grow. Go learn about quantum technologies in tech, business, and other realms that are out there in other industries. Go learn about it right now. Sensei, you have any closing words?
Yeah,
I can't believe
yeah,
this is the hour. This already, man.
many people think that tech is not going to affect them, and I don't do that. I don't do technology. It doesn't change. It doesn't affect me at all.
Right.
I'm sorry, but tech is going to affect everybody, whether you are involved in it or not. So you have a
Absolutely.
choice. You can let it affect you, or you
Mhm.
can affect it.
That's it.
You can be either active or passive. You can be in control of your destiny, or you can just hang on for the ride while it goes on around you.
Man. You don't want to be the person. You don't want to be that person. No, you don't. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up our quantum journey.
For now.
That wraps it up for now. Thank you for joining us on Tech Tuesdays as we explored quantum and Qdar Technologies. Remember, the future isn't coming. It's already here. The future is now. It's just not evenly distributed yet, but it's here. It is here. Thank you for watching our show. As always, be balanced, be equal, be smart. And to all of you around the world, thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. And a special shout out to our technological SME, the one and only, the Sensei, Big Mike. That's our show. Amazing. That's our show. So much information, man, but I know you guys were glued to the screen because I can see you glued to the screen. So we appreciate you for staying and tuning in. Tune in this Thursday for our special guest on the Final Boss. We're going to have full-burnt Colonel Malik Freeman, and he will be here discussing all things with leadership, manhood, and a whole host of other things. But full-burnt Colonel Malik Freeman, United States Army, will be here to talk to the Final Boss this Thursday. So we will see you guys then at 9 p.m. live, same channel. Thank you. Thank you again. You guys have an amazing time and blessed week. Stay cool. Stay cool if you can. That is our show. Have a great one.